In this episode, we're going to rebuild the GLA-AMG and make it ready for its first test drive. A lot of parts have come in. An original bumper, the Diamond Grille Original. We find this one really cool. We also got a lower carpal lid in. We're also going to do a major service on the AMG because, as you all know, it has not been maintained for years. That is what we definitely need to do before the first test drive. The clamps are inward, the wheel chocks are inward. Guys, I'm really looking forward to it, to prepare the car for its first test. Let's quickly start with what I think is a maintenance service to throw in, and then we'll go through the panels. There's a lot to do today, we'll just quickly go through. Let's go! Both the spark plugs and the air filter were replaced, and I have to say it went pretty smoothly. One spark plug was quite sketchy because it had to be mounted at an angle. That is this one. The tube that's here from the intercooler was a bit in the way. And do you have a GLA45 or an A45 or what? Then this is something you definitely need to check out, which are these hoses. Like with this one too. He's really fallen for it here, and you have to be careful because the engine cover then vibrates. Bump into that pipe and then the pipe breaks. I'm going to start the car now. I'd rather replace the spark plugs in a cold block than a hot one. So I'm going to start the car now. Can I do a check already or not? Check if the spark plugs are good, and besides, I'm going to let the oil warm up so I can easily drain it. And if the engine part is almost done, I'm going to start the car now. I'm always amazed at how good this thing sounds every time. It's incredible. As you can see, my oil temperature is getting quite warm. He's been idling for about 15 minutes now. I think that's enough running. We're going to drain the oil, let's go. I always find it impressive to cut open the old oil filter to just see the condition of the engine. This way you can see if there's any sludge, copper filings, aluminum. The filings that could indicate engine damage with us actually look like this. So the engine service is completely finished. Now we're going to tackle the brake discs with the pads first. And I can tell you one thing. His brake discs are enormously large. What they compare to is similar to that of the Lamborghini Gallardo in front. Force, put on a fun song. Just hit those brakes. Let's go. The first brake disc has been mounted alongside the new brake pads, of course, and what actually stood out to me about the brake pads themselves is that they have an arrow on them. Arrow on the brake pad, well, that's really weird because the original brake pads that came out of the Mercedes also have a wear indicator. And they go upwards, as you can see, and down to me. And the funny thing is, I think those arrows mean the direction of rotation of, it's huge. So that actually means that the brake pads that were in it were actually mounted incorrectly. We should not put a game on a brake pad. I only assembled it the way I think it's right. Adjust the direction of your wheel. I'll continue on the right side, and once the brakes are on, we'll finally move on with the rebuild of this project. The splash guards are going on, the bumpers are going on, this is going to be a mega cool project. I'll spare you the camera footage of how to change a brake disc and brake pads because you've just seen the other side. So here's a camera trick. So the brake discs and pads are mounted here as well, so we can move on to the back, and that's where we are now. The rear tire, left rear, is so severely flat that we can't even repair it. That hole is gigantic, look. Finger slides in. Yes, the tires we bought for this are super cheap, at 55 euros each. And now you're all going to hate us in the comments for putting such bad tires on the back. This one has curb rash. This one has a lot of curb rash. And the funny thing is, we're still not decided if we're going to put new rims on this car. The most important thing is that it starts rolling now. You should just be able to drive and roll normally for the first test. And that's why we went for super cheap tires. On the front, they're not much better either. Milestone is on there. Well, they're also not much more expensive than 55 euros each. And we thought, yes, we are not going to invest 250 euros in really good tires all around now. So that's almost €1,000 for only tires on this car, while we might go for other wheels in the future. And we are now replacing the tires because we have taken our tire machine out of our service van, and now it stands here. It's rusty, but it always works. So now we're going to replace the tires in the back, and then it's completely ready for a first test drive, except for the body parts because we're going to assemble those later. Let's go. The Tristan Sport Power 2. Wow, what a crazy tire, guys. But as I just said, the tires are just for a first test drive. And if the car turns out to be good, we'll probably invest in new rims and tires. We're now coming up on something that'll make a difference with this car, namely bumpers. Bumpers, fenders. What a job this is going to be before we can actually put the bumpers on. We need to replace a few things like a windshield washer pump, turn the spray lever. It is then broken off. So yes, those are actually the little things, the time-consuming things that still need to be done before the bumpers can be put on. Of course, we also mentioned that we are going to fix this dent, but that will be done at the spray paint shop where the car will be painted later. He's going to show us now how to best do this bodywork. Whatever we said, we're just going to do it. Replace the sprinklers, replace the hoses, and then we get to the big bunker parts. Let's go! It's a new day here, and as promised, we're getting the car ready for its first test drive. Soon there will be a guy who will basically fix all the glitches for us. And for that, the car must be complete. Parking sensors need to be connected, actually. All sensors should be in place so that we can't really get any malfunctions from there. Before we can start with that, we're going to mount the side screen first. And as you know, we've also delivered a number separately. We need to disconnect those from the clients now. That's why the side skirt has to come off. Just continue with the dismantling of our AMG. Let's go. Mercedes really thought this through. We don't have to take apart the entire side skirt, just loosen a few screws. Can move something aside here. Can you actually join right away? It's always nice to buy a damaged car whole, so without the parts disassembled, because, as you can see, we use a lot of small pieces of the broken parts. Here, there is a clip on it. And just think, if you have to order all those little things separately from the dealer, yeah, then you're just spending a ton of time arranging everything. And so, can we just remove our worn mudguard and then put it on our new mudguard? All right, then we can mount this one right away, so that's what we're going to do. Even the small brackets are not missed, namely, this is a bracket holding the splash shield in place. And of course, we have ordered everything new, including the small stuff. Nothing here is overlooked. So this bracket will just be replaced and put back. And that's how you know everything will fit properly later on. We arrive at the front bumper, and it's actually delivered completely blank. No interior work unless for the spice traders. A piece about transferring from our old bumper. And that is what's so nice about what I just mentioned. If your car is complete, you have all that. Just break it if it's intact. I asked the dealer if all these parts are available separately, and they are not. So if you order a bumper from the dealer, that's possible. How does he fit in at all times? And in our case, we bought a bumper secondhand. It may not be possible, but since we've kept our old stuff, we can transfer it, and that's the nice thing about it. I want you to have everything. Let's try to hang the bumper without transferring all that inner support. This is actually because soon when we go to the injections, the car will be completely disassembled again. We've received a new chamber form, including sensors. Obviously used. Those things are the new main prize, and as you can see, ours is completely torn off on the left front side. And so we also just have a few extra sensors added on. So what we're going to do is, we'll put this little grill in because we'll need it later when we want to clear the car trouble. And it's a bit of a puzzle because later on it's going back in the cabinet anyway. So having said this, we're going to switch the cable, put in a small grill, then we'll try to hang the bumper on the corners at the front, without really transferring the entire interior. Next part, let's go. The ravens are in place. It's now time to mount the wheels and start removing malfunctions, I believe. First, we connected our battery to a trickle charger. This is a requirement when you're programming. As you can see, we've managed to get a Mercedes-Benz diagnostic unit, but unfortunately, the programming went differently than expected, and our problem is still not solved. You saw it, so we've been busy reading the Mercedes. This way we discovered a few things, specifically, that we're missing an air quality sensor. Yes, apparently. To the left of your bumper, that's super important actually for your air conditioning system and other components, because that's what it uses to check how pure the air is. Really weird, right? Slim it is. But okay, and besides, we've also found out that our headlight modules, it must be defective because the reading box does detect them, but it can't access them. And this often indicates an internal malfunction or that they are broken. Both of our headlights were broken, and he was left outside in the rain for quite a while, and in the snow, I recall. Does it really last such an incredibly short time? It's simply filled with water. Yes, and so they are defective. We now know what we will order. 2 new headland modules will take the xenon module as well, so then we'll just take all the modules at once. And this will of course not deter us from our first test. We've got a little round here on the grounds. And we heard his sound. We are coming. Turns out our stabilizers are on. Comes a tad tighter still. And now that I've done it, our sound has gone with it. Now the car goes up again, because the front right TPS sensor broke down at the old egg. This was in the trunk. We're very happy about it because, of course, we had a warning on the dashboard about 1 tire pressure gauge. And what turns out? It broke off at the valve. That always happens. And what we managed to arrange is that we had a BMW valve lying around, and it just works. You can just transfer them over to each other. So for all Mercedes haters who drive BMW and vice versa, your parts do fit together somewhat. Keep that in mind. Don't hate too much, guys. That looks like a professional BMW touch-up working on a Mercedes. People are going to hate us for this. 10 on the dot? I think so, yeah. That's really nothing, 10 newtons. So don't forget to subscribe, give a thumbs up, turn on notifications, share it with your friends, and see you in the next episode where we going for a test drive with the car.